Marcus Johnson walked slowly across the campus lawn, his backpack heavy with textbooks from his morning classes. The autumn leaves crunched under his feet as he made his way back to his dorm room. It was his third month at Westlake University, and while his classes were going well, he still felt like an outsider. As one of only 27 black students in a school of over 3,000, Marcus often felt the weight of eyes on him wherever he went. He kept his head down, focused on his studies, and spent most evenings practicing piano in the empty music rooms. When Marcus entered his dorm room, his roommate Jake was sprawled on his bed, scrolling through his phone. "Hey, Marcus." "There you are," Jake said, sitting up with sudden energy. "I've been waiting for you." Marcus dropped his backpack on his desk chair. "What's up?" "You're coming with me tonight," Jake announced with a grin. "Alpha Sigma Phi is having their fall party. It's supposed to be the biggest event of the semester." Marcus frowned. "A frat party? I don't think so." "Come on, man, you never go out. All you do is study and play piano." "Because that's why I'm here," Marcus replied. "I'm on scholarship. I can't mess around." Jake stood up and put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. "One night won't kill your GPA. Besides, these are the connections that matter in the real world. These guys' dads run companies where we might want jobs someday." Marcus sighed. He had heard this argument before. His own father had told him that college wasn't just about books. It was about building networks. But every time Marcus tried to join any social group, he felt the cold wall of difference between himself and the others. "I don't know anyone there," Marcus said. "You know me," Jake countered. "And it's time you met more people. You can't hide in the practice rooms forever." Marcus looked out the window at the large fraternity houses that lined University Avenue. The Alpha Sigma Phi house was the biggest one, with its white columns and manicured lawn. He had walked past it many times but never imagined himself going inside. "They won't want me there," Marcus said quietly. Jake's face softened. "Look, I know it's not easy being, black." Marcus finished for him. "Yeah," Jake said, looking slightly uncomfortable. "But these guys aren't like that. They're cool. And if anyone gives you trouble, I've got your back." Marcus wasn't convinced, but he was tired of spending every Friday night alone while the rest of the campus seemed to be having fun. Maybe Jake was right. Maybe he needed to at least try to be more social. "What time?" Marcus finally asked. Jake's face lit up. "It starts at 9. You won't regret it, I promise." As Jake hurried off to his afternoon class, Marcus sat down at his desk and opened his laptop, but instead of working on his music theory assignment, he found himself staring at the blank screen, anxiety building in his chest. He had heard stories about these fraternity parties, the drinking, the exclusivity, the subtle and not-so-subtle ways they made certain people feel unwelcome, but he also knew that staying isolated wasn't helping him either. Marcus took a deep breath and pulled out his phone, setting an alarm for 8:30 p.m. He would go, just this once. He would stay close to Jake, have one drink to be polite, and leave early. What could possibly go wrong? The Alpha Sigma Phi house glowed with bright lights and pulsed with loud music that Marcus could hear from halfway down the block. He walked next to Jake, who was excited and talking nonstop about the people they might meet inside. Marcus nodded and smiled, but his stomach felt tight with worry. "This is going to be awesome," Jake said as they climbed the steps to the large front door. "Just relax and have fun." Marcus took a deep breath. "I'll try." The moment they stepped inside, the noise hit Marcus like a physical force. The main room was packed with students dancing, talking, and drinking from red plastic cups. Colored lights flashed across the crowd, and the air smelled of spilled beer and sweat. Jake immediately waved to someone across the room. "There's my friend Chris. Come on, I'll introduce you." But before they could move, a tall student in an Alpha Sigma Phi t-shirt blocked their path. "Jake, my man," he shouted over the music, giving Jake a complicated handshake. Then his eyes shifted to Marcus. "Who's this?" "This is my roommate, Marcus," Jake said. "Marcus, this is Tyler. He's the vice president of Alpha Sig." Tyler looked Marcus up and down, not offering his hand. "How did you hear about our party?" Marcus felt his face grow hot. "Jake invited me." Tyler raised an eyebrow at Jake, who quickly jumped in. "Marcus is cool, man. He's a music major, on scholarship." "Is that right?" Tyler said, his smile not reaching his eyes. Well, any friend of Jake's is welcome, I guess. Beer's in the kitchen. As Tyler walked away, Marcus turned to Jake. Maybe this was a mistake. Don't worry about Tyler, Jake said. Let's get a drink, and I'll introduce you to some better people. But as they made their way through the crowded room, Marcus noticed how conversation stopped when he passed by. Students stared or whispered to each other. One group of girls giggled behind their hands as he walked past. In the kitchen, Jake grabbed 2 beers from a cooler and handed one to Marcus. Drink this. It'll help you loosen up. Marcus took a small sip. He didn't really like beer, but he held the cup anyway, using it as something to do with his hands. Jake quickly got pulled into a conversation with some friends, leaving Marcus standing alone against the wall. A girl with long blonde hair approached him. You're in my music theory class, right? You sit in the front row. Marcus was surprised that someone recognized him. Yeah, that's me. I'm Emma, she said with a friendly smile. You always have the answers when Professor Collins calls on you. I try to stay prepared, Marcus said, feeling himself relax a little. They talked about their class for a few minutes, and Marcus started to think that maybe the night wouldn't be so bad after all. But then Emma's friends called her away, and he was alone again. Marcus checked his phone. Only 45 minutes had passed. He decided to give it another half hour before making an excuse to leave. He wandered back into the main room, looking for Jake. The music had gotten louder, and most people were now dancing or gathered in tight circles of conversation. No one made space for him or invited him to join. Marcus spotted Jake across the room, now with a different group of guys who were laughing loudly and pushing each other around. He didn't want to interrupt. Just as Marcus was about to step outside for some fresh air, he felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned to find Tyler standing there with 4 other fraternity brothers. So, music boy, Tyler said, his words slightly slurred. What instrument do you play? Piano, Marcus answered, instantly wary of Tyler's too friendly tone. Tyler's smile widened. No kidding? We got a piano right over there. He pointed to an old upright piano in the corner of the room that Marcus hadn't noticed before. Something in Tyler's eyes made Marcus's skin crawl. This sudden interest didn't feel genuine. Maybe another time, Marcus said, trying to step away. But Tyler's grip on his shoulder tightened. No, I insist. We'd all love to hear you play. The other fraternity brothers formed a circle around Marcus, blocking his path to the door. Come on, piano man, Tyler said, his hand still gripping Marcus's shoulder. Show us what they gave you that scholarship for. Marcus looked around for Jake, but his roommate was nowhere to be seen. The circle of fraternity brothers tightened around him, their faces showing a mix of amusement and something darker. I don't really feel like playing right now, Marcus said, trying to keep his voice steady. What's the matter? One of the brothers called out. Stage fright? Another chimed in, or maybe he can't really play. Maybe he just said that to sound impressive. Tyler leaned in closer, his breath heavy with alcohol. I bet you just play that rap stuff, right? Not real music. Marcus felt his ears burning with anger and embarrassment. He knew exactly what was happening. This wasn't the first time people had made assumptions about his musical tastes or abilities based on his skin color. Actually, I've been playing classical piano since I was 6, Marcus said, standing a little straighter. Prove it, Tyler challenged, gesturing toward the piano. By now, other students had noticed the commotion and started to gather around. The music from the speakers was turned down, and Marcus could feel dozens of eyes on him. One of Tyler's friends shouted, Yeah, let's see if the scholarship kid has any real talent. Marcus scanned the growing crowd, looking for a friendly face or someone who might help him out of this situation. He spotted Emma from his music theory class, but she looked away quickly when their eyes met. Tyler grabbed Marcus by the arm and began pulling him toward the piano in the corner. Don't be shy now. We're all friends here, right? Marcus could have resisted. He could have pulled away and walked out the door, but something inside him wouldn't let him give Tyler the satisfaction of seeing him run away. As they reached the piano, Tyler made a grand gesture like a game show host revealing a prize. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced loudly, we have a special treat tonight. Our scholarship student is going to give us a performance. The crowd grew larger. Someone whistled. Another person slow-clapped mockingly. Marcus stood frozen beside the upright piano. It was an old model, probably hadn't been tuned in years. The wood was scratched, and beer cans sat on top of it like it was just another piece of furniture. "What's wrong? Afraid you'll embarrass yourself?" Tyler taunted, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. Marcus thought about his mother, who had worked extra shifts to pay for his piano lessons. He thought about his first teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, who had told him he had a gift that he shouldn't waste. He thought about all the hours he had spent practicing when other kids were playing outside. "Move," Marcus said quietly. "What was that?" Tyler asked, cupping his ear dramatically. "I said move," Marcus repeated, louder this time. "If you want me to play, I need to sit down." Tyler stepped back with a surprised look, then grinned at his friends. He's actually going to do it. This should be good. Marcus sat on the worn piano bench and took a deep breath. He placed his hands on the keys, noticing immediately that at least 3 keys were badly out of tune. It didn't matter. He wasn't playing for them anyway. The room had grown surprisingly quiet. Even the people who had been mocking him moments before seemed curious now. Someone in the back whispered loudly, $5 says he can't play anything but chopsticks." Marcus closed his eyes for a moment, trying to calm his racing heart. He had 2 choices: play something simple and get this over with, or show them exactly who they were trying to humiliate. "We're waiting," Tyler said, checking his watch with exaggerated impatience. "Or do you need someone to hold your hand?" Marcus opened his eyes and looked directly at Tyler. Without saying a word, he placed his fingers on the keys and began to play. The first notes of Chopin's Fantaisie Impromptu filled the room. Marcus's fingers moved with precision and speed, dancing across the keys as if they had a mind of their own. The complex, rushing notes cascaded through the fraternity house, cutting through the haze of alcohol and judgment. Despite the piano's poor condition, the beauty of the music was undeniable. Marcus had chosen one of the most technically challenging pieces in the classical repertoire, one that required years of training to master. Tyler's smug smile began to fade. He glanced at his fraternity brothers, who were staring at Marcus with wide eyes. No one in the room had expected this level of skill, but just as the crowd began to react, Marcus stopped abruptly. His hands hovered above the keys as silence fell over the room again. Some people looked confused, wondering if he had forgotten the rest of the piece. In that moment of silence, Marcus made a decision. He wouldn't give them what they expected. He wouldn't just show off his classical training to prove he belonged. That would be playing by their rules, seeking their approval. Marcus took a deep breath and looked around the room. He saw surprise on many faces, but also the lingering smirks of Tyler and his friends. They might be impressed by his technique, but they still saw him as entertainment, not as an equal. "Is that all you got?" Tyler called out, trying to regain control of the situation. "I thought you were supposed to be good." Marcus didn't respond with words. Instead, he placed his hands back on the piano and began to play again. But this time, it wasn't Chopin. It wasn't Bach or Mozart or any other classical composer whose work he had spent years perfecting. This time, Marcus played his own composition, a piece he had been working on for months, but had never played for anyone. It began with a simple, haunting melody that he had written late one night when homesickness had kept him awake. The notes were soft and questioning at first, like someone searching for their place in the world. As he played, Marcus felt something shift inside him. The fear and anger that had been building all night began to transform into something else. A quiet determination, a certainty about who he was and why he was here at this university, despite all the obstacles. His composition grew more complex, incorporating elements of classical music, jazz, and the gospel songs his grandmother used to sing. It was music that told his story, his whole story, not just the parts these people thought they knew. Marcus was no longer thinking about Tyler or the fraternity brothers or anyone else in the room. He was thinking about his journey, about the old piano in his church, where he had first fallen in love with music, about the competitions he had won, about the doubters who said he would never make it to a school like Westlake. As the piece reached its climax, Marcus poured everything into it. All the frustration of being one of the few black students on campus, all the pride he felt in his accomplishments, all the dreams he still had for his future. His fingers struck the keys with such force that the old piano seemed to come alive beneath his hands. In that moment, Marcus knew he wasn't playing to impress anyone or to defend himself against their prejudice. He was playing because music was his voice, his truth, his power. The fraternity house remained absolutely silent. No one moved. No one whispered. Tyler stood with his arms crossed, his expression unreadable. Some students had closed their eyes, letting the music wash over them. Others watched Marcus with newfound respect, finally seeing beyond the color of his skin to the artist beneath. As the last notes faded away, Marcus sat still for a moment, eyes closed, hands resting lightly on the keys. He had made his decision and expressed it through his music. He would not be defined by their expectations or limited by their prejudice. He would be exactly who he was, without apology. Now it was their turn to decide how they would respond. For several seconds after Marcus finished playing, the silence in the room was complete. No one moved. No one spoke. It was as if time itself had stopped in the Alpha Sigma Phi house. Then, from somewhere in the back of the crowd, a single person began to clap. The sound was hesitant at first, almost apologetic. Another person joined in, and then another. Within moments, the room erupted in applause. Not the mocking, sarcastic kind that Marcus had feared, but genuine, enthusiastic appreciation. Marcus opened his eyes, surprised by the reaction. He saw faces filled with awe and admiration. Even some of the fraternity brothers who had surrounded him earlier were now clapping with genuine respect. Emma, the girl from his music theory class, pushed her way through the crowd until she stood near the piano. "That was incredible," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "Did you write that yourself?" Before Marcus could answer, more students gathered around him, asking questions and offering compliments. "How long have you been playing? Where did you learn to play like that? I'd never heard anything like it." Tyler stood off to the side, his face a mix of embarrassment and surprise. He caught Marcus's eye for a brief moment, then looked away quickly, unable to hold his gaze. Jake finally appeared, pushing through the crowd with a look of confusion on his face. "What happened? What did I miss?" When someone told him what Marcus had done, Jake's expression changed to one of pride. "That's my roommate," he announced loudly, as if he had somehow been responsible for Marcus's talent. A senior music major named David approached the piano. "You're in the music program, right? I've seen you around the practice rooms. Why haven't you played at any of the department recitals?" "I wasn't sure if I was ready," Marcus admitted. "Not ready?" David laughed in disbelief. "Man, you could teach half our professors a thing or two." As the crowd continued to praise him, Marcus felt a strange mix of emotions. There was satisfaction, of course. He had proven himself beyond any doubt. But there was also sadness and anger that he had needed to prove himself at all, that his worth had been questioned simply because of who he was. A tall girl with short red hair pushed through the crowd and extended her hand. "I'm Elisa, president of the Music Students Association. We're organizing a benefit concert next month for music education in local schools. After what I just heard, I'd be honored if you'd consider performing." Before Marcus could respond, someone handed him a cup of water. Others offered him snacks from the kitchen. People were treating him like a celebrity now, the same people who had ignored him or whispered about him earlier in the evening. Through it all, Marcus remained calm, accepting their praise with quiet dignity. He didn't gloat or show any sign of the anger he had felt earlier. He simply thanked people for their kind words and answered their questions about his musical background. One of Tyler's fraternity brothers, a sophomore named Ben, sat down next to Marcus on the piano bench. "Can you show me how you did that thing with your left hand? I play a little, but I've never seen anyone move their fingers that fast." Marcus smiled and demonstrated the technique, explaining how years of practice had built the muscle memory needed for such rapid passages. Ben watched in fascination, asking thoughtful questions that showed genuine interest. As the night went on, the party resumed its normal rhythm, but it was different now. Marcus was no longer an outsider to be mocked or ignored. Students who had never spoken to him before were now introducing themselves, inviting him to sit with them in class or join them for coffee. The old piano in the corner, once used mainly as a place to set drinks, had become the center of attention. Throughout the evening, other students tried to play it, but none could create the magic that Marcus had produced. For the first time since coming to Westlake University, Marcus felt seen, not as a scholarship student, not as one of the few black faces on campus, but as himself, a gifted musician with something important to share with the world. By Monday morning, everyone on campus was talking about what had happened at the Alpha Sigma Phi party. Students who hadn't been there claimed they were, while those who had actually witnessed Marcus's performance couldn't stop describing it to anyone who would listen. Marcus walked into his music theory class and immediately noticed the difference. Instead of sitting alone as he usually did, he found Emma waving him over to sit next to her. Two other students quickly made room for him, smiling and greeting him by name. "You're famous now," Emma whispered as Professor Collins organized her notes at the front of the classroom. "There's a video going around." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "A video? Of me playing?" Emma nodded and showed him her phone. Someone had recorded his entire performance and posted it online. The video already had thousands of views and hundreds of comments, most of them overwhelmingly positive. "I didn't know anyone was recording," Marcus said, unsure how to feel about this unexpected exposure. "Is that a problem?" Emma asked, concerned by his reaction. Before Marcus could answer, Professor Collins began the lecture, but throughout the class, Marcus noticed her glancing at him with new interest. When the class ended, she called him to her desk as the other students filed out. "Mr. Johnson," she said, "I saw a rather impressive video this weekend." Marcus nodded, embarrassed. "Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry if it was inappropriate." Professor Collins shook her head. "On the contrary, I was going to ask why you haven't shared your compositions with the department before. That piece you played? It was remarkable. It's still a work in progress," Marcus explained. "Well, I'd like you to consider performing it at our winter showcase," she said. "The department head saw the video too, and he's very interested in discussing your future here." As Marcus left the classroom, he found David, the senior music major from the party, waiting for him in the hallway. "Hey, piano man." David greeted him with a fist bump. "I talked to some of the jazz ensemble guys about you. We've been looking for a pianist all semester. Are you interested?" The offers continued throughout the day. The gospel choir director stopped him in the cafeteria. Two students from the music technology program wanted to record his compositions. By afternoon, Marcus had to turn his phone off because he was getting so many messages from people he didn't even know. After his last class, Marcus headed to his usual practice room in the music building, hoping for some quiet time to process everything that had happened. But as he approached the room, he saw Tyler standing awkwardly by the door. Marcus stopped, surprised to see the fraternity vice president in the music building. Tyler looked different now, smaller somehow, less confident than he had been at the party. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Tyler asked, his voice strained. Marcus hesitated, then nodded. "What's up?" Tyler struggled to meet his eyes. "I wanted to apologize for Friday night. The way I treated you. It wasn't right." "No, it wasn't," Marcus agreed, not making it easy for him. "I've been thinking about it all weekend," Tyler continued. "I could say I was drunk or that I was just messing around, but the truth is—" He paused, clearly uncomfortable. "The truth is, I made assumptions about you that weren't fair." Marcus watched Tyler's face carefully, trying to gauge his sincerity. "Your playing was amazing," Tyler added. "But that's not the point. Even if you couldn't play at all, what I did was wrong. I'm sorry." The apology seemed genuine, but Marcus wasn't sure how to respond. Part of him wanted to tell Tyler exactly how hurtful his actions had been, how they had reinforced all the isolation Marcus had felt since arriving at Westlake. Another part of him recognized that Tyler's apology, however awkward, represented a step forward. "I appreciate you saying that," Marcus finally said. "It took guts to come here." Tyler nodded, relief visible on his face. "I know it doesn't fix anything, but I wanted you to know." As Tyler turned to leave, Marcus called after him. "The piano at your house is terribly out of tune, by the way." Tyler looked back, a small smile forming. "Yeah, I noticed that. Maybe you could recommend someone to fix it." Marcus felt the beginning of something shift between them, not friendship, exactly, but a crack in the wall that had separated them. The following weeks brought changes to Marcus's life that he never could have imagined. The viral video of his performance had reached far beyond campus, catching the attention of local news stations and music blogs. A reporter from the city newspaper contacted him for an interview about his musical background and the story behind the video. "I'm not comfortable talking about that night," Marcus told the reporter over the phone. "I'd rather focus on the music." But the story had already taken on a life of its own. Different versions circulated around campus, some painting Marcus as a victim who triumphed over racism, others claiming the whole incident had been blown out of proportion. The truth, as Marcus knew, was somewhere in between. The university administration couldn't ignore the situation. Dean Rodriguez called Marcus into her office on a Wednesday afternoon. The walls of her office were covered with framed degrees and awards, and she sat behind a large wooden desk that made Marcus feel small as he entered. "Mr. Johnson," she said, gesturing for him to sit down. "I've heard a lot about you lately." Marcus nodded but said nothing. "The video from the Alpha Sigma Phi party has raised concerns about the treatment of minority students on campus," she continued. "We take these matters very seriously." "I didn't file any complaint," Marcus said quickly. "No, you didn't," Dean Rodriguez agreed. "But others have come forward since the video went public. It seems your experience wasn't unique." She explained that the university was opening an investigation into Alpha Sigma Phi's behavior patterns. The fraternity had been placed on probation pending the results. "We'd like to hear your account of what happened that night," she said. Marcus hesitated. He didn't want to be at the center of a campus controversy. He had come to Westlake to study music, not to become a symbol in a larger fight. But he also knew that staying silent wouldn't help change things for other students who might face similar situations. "I'll tell you what happened," he finally said, "but I have one condition." Dean Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "I want to be part of whatever solution comes from this," Marcus said firmly, "not just a witness or a victim." After leaving the dean's office, Marcus found several messages on his phone from Jake. His roommate had been keeping his distance since the party, clearly uncomfortable with his role in what had happened. "Can we talk?" Jake's latest message read, "I feel terrible about everything." Marcus texted back, agreeing to meet at their room that evening. When he arrived, Jake was sitting on his bed, looking miserable. "I should have stayed with you at the party," Jake said as soon as Marcus walked in. "I knew those guys could be jerks, and I just left you alone." "You didn't know what would happen," Marcus said, sitting down at his desk. "But I should have," Jake insisted. "And I should have done something when Tyler started with you. I heard about it later, but by then you were already playing, and everyone was amazed." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "Why did you invite me in the first place?" Jake looked down at his hands. "I honestly thought it would be good for you to meet more people. You always seem so isolated." He paused. "But maybe I also wanted to show off that I had this cool, talented roommate." The honesty of the answer surprised Marcus. "Well, you got your wish. Everyone knows who I am now." Jake winced. "I'm really sorry, Marcus." "I know," Marcus said. And he did know. Jake's guilt was written all over his face. That night, Marcus got another unexpected call, this one from a professor at the State University's prestigious music conservatory. She had seen the video and wanted to know if Marcus would be interested in auditioning for their program. "We offer full scholarships to exceptional students," she explained. "And based on what I heard, you certainly qualify." It was an amazing opportunity, a chance to study at one of the top music schools in the country. A week ago, Marcus would have jumped at it immediately. But now, sitting in his dorm room after the conversation with Dean Rodriguez, he wasn't so sure. Something had changed at Westlake. Doors were opening, conversations were starting, and Marcus suddenly found himself with a voice that people were listening to. "Can I think about it?" he asked the professor. "Of course," she said, "but don't wait too long. Talent like yours deserves the right environment to grow." As he hung up, Marcus wondered exactly what the right environment meant for him now. 6 months had passed since that night at the Alpha Sigma Phi house. Spring had arrived on Westlake University's campus, bringing with it new flowers, warmer weather, and significant changes. He was heading to the Student Union building for the first meeting of the Campus Cultural Awareness Committee, which had been formed as part of the university's response to the incidents that had come to light after his piano performance went viral. Marcus had been asked to serve as one of the student representatives, along with members from various campus groups. When he arrived at the meeting room, Marcus was surprised to see Tyler already there, setting up chairs. "Hey," Tyler said with a nod, "thanks for coming early." Their relationship had evolved into something neither of them could have predicted. After Tyler's apology that day in the music building, they had begun a cautious dialogue. It wasn't exactly friendship, but it was something just as valuable, an honest exchange between two people from very different backgrounds trying to understand each other better. No problem, Marcus replied, helping to arrange the last few chairs. How's the community service going? As part of their probation, Alpha Sigma Phi had been required to complete 500 hours of community service. They had chosen to partner with an after-school music program in the city's underserved neighborhoods. It's actually really cool, Tyler admitted. Those kids are amazing. One little girl, Sophia, she reminds me of you. Crazy talented, just needs someone to give her a chance. Marcus smiled. There was no hint of the old Tyler in these words. No mockery, no condescension, just genuine appreciation. The door opened, and Dean Rodriguez entered, followed by several faculty members and students. The meeting began with updates on the new diversity initiatives that had been implemented across campus. When it was Marcus's turn to speak, he presented the proposal he had been working on for weeks. The music department has agreed to host monthly showcase events featuring diverse musical traditions, he explained. We've already scheduled performances highlighting everything from classical Indian ragas to Appalachian folk music. What Marcus didn't mention was that the idea had actually come from a late-night conversation with Tyler, who had asked about the influences in Marcus's original composition from that night at the party. After the meeting, Emma caught up with Marcus as he was leaving the building. "Ready for tomorrow?" she asked excitedly. Emma had become one of Marcus's closest friends over the past months. They had discovered a shared passion not just for music theory, but also for using art to bridge cultural divides. "As ready as I'll ever be," Marcus answered. The next day was the debut performance of the Westlake Jazz Collective, a new ensemble that Marcus had helped create. What had started as a casual jam session with a few music students had grown into an official university group with regular rehearsals and performances. What made the collective special wasn't just the quality of the music, it was the diversity of its members. Students from all backgrounds had joined, bringing their unique perspectives and influences to create something new and vibrant. As Marcus took his place at the piano for their first public performance, he looked out at the audience filling the university's main auditorium. He saw Professor Collins and the music department faculty in the front row. Jake was there with a group of his friends. Dean Rodriguez sat near the center, alongside other administrators. And in the back, trying to be inconspicuous, stood a group of Alpha Sigma Phi brothers, including Tyler. They had come to support not just Marcus, but also their fraternity brother Ben, who had taken piano lessons from Marcus and was now playing keyboard in the ensemble. As the lights dimmed, Marcus felt a sense of completion. The incident that could have driven him away from Westlake had instead become the catalyst for real change, not just for him, but for the entire campus. The first notes of Marcus's original composition filled the auditorium. It was the same piece he had played that night at the fraternity house, but he had expanded it, incorporating influences from all the members of the collective. The music told a story of confrontation and resolution, of boundaries crossed and bridges built. Marcus played with his eyes closed, feeling the music flow through him. This was why he had chosen to stay at Westlake instead of transferring to the prestigious conservatory. This was the right environment he had been searching for, not a place where everything was perfect, but a place where he could make a difference. As the final notes faded away, the audience rose to their feet in a standing ovation. In that moment, Marcus knew that sometimes being forced to play was just the beginning of a much larger symphony.